Great question on the Max Regen button. Do you leave it on? Do you leave it off? To understand, there's always context. There's always context to a lot of things. And so to understand the effectiveness or maybe the lack of effectiveness of Max Regen, you have to understand what it's doing and what it's not doing, and how it plays into the Wrangler 4xe and its operations. So Max Regen, as you may have already figured out, when you turn it on, it decelerates the vehicle very quickly when you lift your foot off the accelerator pedal. However, that deceleration force is coming from the P2 motor generator, which is in the transmission. It's not coming from the brakes, the friction brakes, so to speak. So when the other thing to understand about that is when you put your foot on the brake pedal in the Wrangler 4xe, you're not activating the friction brakes. You're actually activating a change in the P2 motor generator in the transmission. It kind of changes a couple phases on the three-phase motor and creates a resistance inside the motor, which also creates a charge. The best way I can think to describe that is if you had a ceiling fan and you had it running on slow and you flip that little switch and it turns around and goes the other direction. Now it's a little different because that's not three-phase power, but that's kind of what's going on in the P2 motor generator when you put your foot on the brake pedal or when you have Max Regen turned on. Is when you lift your foot from the accelerator or when you put your foot on the brake, you're getting that regenerative force that is just decelerating the vehicle from the P2 motor generator. So when Max Regen is most effective is when you're around town, when you're doing a lot of start and stop traffic. It's not doing anything for you on the highway. In fact, it can actually, from an energy perspective, it can slow you down more than you really want to when you're on the highway. If you want to let your foot off the pedal and just coast a little rather than having the vehicle slow down and then having to use energy to get the vehicle back up to speed, if you can just coast, it can actually be more energy effective to just allow the vehicle to coast on the highway. Around town, that can be a little bit different, and it makes it very nice. Like this morning, I drove 8 miles to work. I touched the brake pedal once, and I literally was able to control my speeding up and slowing down by almost one pedal operation by just allowing the vehicle to slow down when it needed to. Now, the other thing about Max Regen, when you turn it on, it remaps a little bit of the top end of the accelerator pedal, and you can control the amount of regen you're getting out of it and the amount of deceleration that's going on by feathering that top little bit of the accelerator pedal. We don't call it a gas pedal because when you're in electric mode, it's not a gas pedal, right? So at that point, you can kind of manipulate how well you're slowing down or how much you're slowing down, I should say. So great question. I hope that answers the question. I know that gets into a little bit of stuff with the blended braking system and how that works, because when you're slowing down and you're putting your foot on the brake, you're actually getting that deceleration from the P2 motor generator in the transmission, not from the friction brakes, until just that last few feet where the system blends over to the friction brakes and brings the vehicle to a complete stop. Hope that answers that question. I know that got a little bit long.